Good afternoon or good evening or good morning. It depends when you're watching this. I hope everyone enjoyed the Super Bowl yesterday. As a Jets fan, I was pretty happy that the Seattle won. Seahawks, good to see Darno do well, and the Patriots lose. But so what we're going to do this week is a little bit different. Instead of the live meetings on Sunday nights, you're going to get a couple videos during the week. This first one today that we're going to talk about, we're going to discuss goals. That was a topic that when I asked you guys to put some ideas out there for topics to talk about. A number of you put down goals in there, and we briefly touched on those during one of our earlier meetings. But we're going to talk about using goals, the different types. I'm sure you know a lot about it in terms of short term or long term. But we're also going to kind of attach it to what I call a performance profile. And what a performance profile is basically it helps you kind of evolve as a player. You could also use it as a student. But you're basically looking at, okay, what are 7 or 8 skills that I need to be able to possess to be successful, or not necessarily to be successful, but to kind of reach the goals that I have for myself. So whether that's becoming a high school baseball player, college baseball player, a professional baseball player, maybe a coach one day, a lawyer, a doctor, a policeman, whatever it ends up being, what do I need to do? What can I do now? How can I work towards those long-term goals with a plan? Not just kind of come up with a long-term goal and then that's where I want to be, but we don't take the steps to kind of reach that or to make it easier to reach that goal in the long run. I know I'm guilty of this sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of you are, where we kind of start, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to complete a class. I want to get an A. I want to be this. I want to be a pitcher. I want to have a curveball. I want to be able to hit for power. And we come up with that long-term goal, but we don't really have a plan to reach that long-term goal other than hope. And hope is very important. But what we need to do is to make sure we actually have a plan that we can step by step reach it. So this is where the performance profile comes in. And if you think about it, let's say we pick 8 skills. Is usually because it's a pie. The chart I send out. You 8 skills, and then you pick those 8 skills. They could be physical, they could be mental. Um, whatever you want to choose, you can choose. But if you improve those skills, 8 skills, let's say one a month, and you become a little bit better at it, then after 8 months, or a season of playing from February to through October, after 8 months, you're a better ball player in 8 different areas of your game. Then you've significantly improved for that season. And you do that for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Let's say you're 13 years old and you do that for 3 years. All of a sudden, that's 24 areas of your game that you've become better at, and you're just a much more complete ball player, and you're that much closer to reaching your goals. So I personally found this to be very successful for me personally. When I was in the minor leagues, I threw a fastball at the time. It was a long time ago. Threw a fastball in the low 90s, which at the time was above average for a righty. Four seam or two seam. I threw a changeup and a curveball. And it was really, I had a really good curve, so it was really easy for me if I wanted to get hitters out at the lower levels with just using my curveball because I knew that it was a pitch that they had a lot of difficulty hitting. But I realized like I don't want to be a great A ball pitcher or low A pitcher or double A. I want to be a major league pitcher one day. And I never reached my goal, but I came close to it. But what I knew I had to be able to do was I knew that I had to be able to throw my fastball to certain parts of the plate at any time. I knew I had to be able to learn how to work my pitches off each other so they looked the same but had different movements at the end. I knew that I had to be able to throw a changeup no matter what the count, whether it was 3-2, bases loaded, or 3-0. I needed to be able to have confidence in throwing that pitch at any time. And then I also knew different things I needed to do with my curveball. But so at the lower levels, at A ball, I can just throw my normal fastball and change up when I wanted to, and then get people out with the curveball and do well. But I knew that when I reached the higher levels of the minor leagues and I've reached pitching as better hitters, that I needed to be able to do the other things to become that I wasn't good at the moment in order to succeed. And I remember one particular situation in A ball, high A, and I was pitching pretty well. And I ended up I almost purposely walked a right-handed hitter in a situation with runners on base. and the coach came out and was basically like, what the heck are you doing? And I said, well, I have an idea of how I want to get this next hitter who is a lefty out. And I had a specific idea, and he's like, "Well, it's easier to get the righty hitter out." And I was like, "Yeah, but like I want to be able to get this lefty hitter out." And in my head, I was thinking, if I'm not capable of getting this left-handed hitter out in A ball, yeah, I think he's like the 7 or 8 hole hitter. It wasn't, it was bottom of the lineup. Um, with the approach I was trying to work on, which was kind of being able to execute the four-seam fastball underneath the knob of the bat, and also the ability to get him to chase a changeup if he's behind the count. If I wasn't able to do that to an A ball hitter on a random night during the season, how in the world was I going to be able to do that if I ever made it to the big leagues, if I ever made it to the major leagues? So the idea for me was yes, I could take one approach and easily, or not easily, but get the, have a better chance of getting the eye out. But what I was really thinking about, like, what are my long-term goals? My long-term goal was to pitch in the major leagues. My long-term goal was understanding that, or process goal, which we'll learn about. For the process, one of the process goals I had to set for myself in order to achieve that dream was that I had to be able to throw any pitch in my arsenal to any part of the plate at any time of the game or any of the count. And if I was not able to do that, I had zero chance of making the major leagues. So that was one of my process goals. And another process goal was to use that time in the minor leagues as a kind of experiment or a proving ground in order to to get better at that. So it might meant like certain games, I'd throw a certain pitch more, throw a two-seamer more, and then work it off another pitch. Or it might mean that I focused on throwing my curveball for a strike and then throwing it in the dirt, or maybe working my high fastball with the curveball, to try to change the eye level of the hitter. So these were process goals I set for myself in order to reach my long-term goal. And there's another type of goal we call performance goals, which they're be done two ways in baseball, right? We either have the stats, which are kind of like outcome goals, but they're also performance goals because they're an indicator of how we're doing over the term of the season. Or I kind of made more micro performance goals, which were game based, which were how I felt about the pitches I threw. Did I feel comfortable throwing a certain pitch? Was I able to throw a pitch for a strike more often? And because the one thing with outcome goals in baseball, especially using stats, and we've all been there, if we're hitting and we have three at bats, I hit three line drives, but they're all outs. In terms of the stats and the outcome, I probably, I had a bad day, right? I was 0 for 3. I didn't get any hits where I can have a day where I get jammed 3 times and the ball kind of just bleeds through the infield 3 times for 3 hits and I'm 3 for 3. And it looks like I had a great day. I go home, hey, mom, dad, I was 3 for 3, I had 3 hits. It was a great day. But the reality of the situation is that the 0 for 3 day was more productive for you, or was a better day for you. It was more of an indicator of how you're hitting, right? You're seeing the ball well, you're hitting the ball well. And I say that is as you guys are young, but you need to become a little bit better, or you'll learn how to kind of, and it's a little bit with the reframing. We learn how to kind of use performance goals to our advantage, to where we stay motivated and how we have a realistic kind of outlook on how we're doing. So, and an example of the realistic thing would be, hey, I was 0 for 3. I'm terrible. I can't play. I'm no good. I'm going to be dropped down the lineup, right? That kind of mindset, brings you down. It doesn't help you perform, and it's really not true, right? Or we could have that. I'm 3 for 3. I had the three, bleeding hits, that just got through the infield. I'm seeing the ball great. I'm swinging well. I don't need to make any changes. I'm great. Again, that's not a realistic outlook of what you could do. Now, the reframe or the realistic outlook would be I was 0 for 3, but I hit the ball hard 3 times. I'm seeing the ball well. My timing is good. They're going to start to fall in, right? Or the on the reverse side, I was 3 for 3 today. I got jammed 3 times. I got beat 3 times, but man, I was lucky. I got 3 hits. Okay. These are the changes I'm going to work on in order to, have better at bats. But I feel really fortunate and I'm really happy that I was 3 for 3 because we all know in baseball or pitching, like we get an out, we get an out, we get a hit, we get a hit. Like it's a great thing. And so as we talked about goals today and the performance profile, I want you to keep in mind that there are three types of goals. There's a process goal, there's the performance goal, and then there's the outcome goal. And we, like I said, we touched on this earlier in one of our earlier meetings. The outcome goal to me is meaningless. The outcome goal is something that you could look back upon when you're 50 years old and say, hey, I accomplished this. This is great. But it really, if we're focusing on the outcome, we are not going to perform to our best. We're just not, we're not going to be the best player. We're going to be thinking about what the outcome is instead of thinking about the situation. We're going to be thinking about the consequences of our actions, our at bat, our inning that we're pitching. We're not going to be thinking about what we need to do. So we're going to leave the outcome goal out of this for the rest of the talk because to me, like it shouldn't exist, right? The important things you always hear, like it's about the journey. Well, it truly is. And the journey is about the process goals and then the performance goals. And the process goals are the mini goals, right? The micro goals that you set for yourself every day, every week that help us lead to the bigger goals that we have. All right. So if I want to throw with more velocity, our goal is to throw with more velocity. But in order to reach that goal, we have to set process goals. I need to throw more long toss. That's a process goal. I need to work on my flexibility. That's a process goal. I need to make sure I'm consistent with my shoulder work. That's a process goal. And we set these process goals and we focus on these process goals and we accomplish each one of them each day or every other day, whenever they're set to happen. Then we have that sense of accomplishment and we're moving forward. And then we set the performance goal. For velocity, it's easy, right? Does your velocity go up? Or maybe does your velocity last instead of peaking in the second or third inning, it peaks in the fifth inning. Or if you're a hitter, you hit the ball 20 feet further. Or you hit the ball opposite field with more power. But whatever the performance goals are, that's what they are. So if we focus on these process goals, these little things, and we put the effort and our thought into those process goals, then we should be able to reach our performance goals. Excuse me. And then once we have the performance goals, then we start to think, okay, did I reach my performance goal? Yes. Okay, great. Do I need to make any changes or are things working and I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing? All right, that could be one answer. Maybe I reached my performance goal, but I kind of feel like my process goals have become a little bit stale. Maybe they're not working as fast as they should be working. And so maybe I need to alter those process goals a little bit in order to reach my performance goals. Or maybe we don't reach our goal, all right? Maybe we fall short, but we realize that we are on the right path, so we continue with the same process goals. Or we don't reach our goal and we realize that we need to make changes with our process goals. So, basically, I guess the bottom line when it comes to our goal setting is that we want to set these firm goals, where like the area, the skill that we want to work on. I want to improve on my range. I want to improve my velocity. I want to improve on making contact. Those are our kind of like our skills that we want to accomplish. Then what we need to do is how am I going to do that? And this is when you could talk to your coaches, you could talk to teammates, you could talk to your parents, but you find someone that you trust, that knows you, and that has done it with somebody before. Okay, so most likely you guys are fortunate enough to have some great coaches. Coach, I want to be able to get to the ball in the hole faster from my shortstop position. What are some things I could work on as process goals in order for that to happen? Excuse me. And they might say, hey, it's these are the footwork things I've noticed that you can improve upon. Boom, there's one process goal. Two, you can work on your first step in agility. Three, you can work on how quickly you release the ball with your throw in order to have a better chance of getting a guy out of first base. So those are three process goals that the coach has given you that you could work on in order to become better at going in the hole. So to me, this is one of the more important concepts of improving as a player. And it's whether you're the best, the number one guy in the team or the 15th guy in the team, it doesn't matter. You can become better. And back to my story about the minor leagues in the beginning, if you have a mindset of I'm going to work on the areas that I'm not strong in and make them strong, then you're going to become a more complete player in the future as well. So I've seen that as well, where people just focus on the things that they do well, and they kind of ignore the things that they're a little bit weaker at, but eventually it catches up to you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to, again, talk about the idea of process performance and performance goals and how we can use them to become better players. This is going to, this video is either attached to a type form or there'll be a second link with a type form. So I want to make sure I can connect this video to it. But what it's going to be, it's basically you're going to pick a skill that you want to improve upon. And again, you could pick a baseball one or you could pick a school one, academic, either one. You're going to pick that skill and it's going to ask for three process goals that you're going to work on. Okay, so the three process goals are things that you can do, and I kind of hopefully they're on like a daily basis type thing or every other day, but three small things that you could do where you break up that skill and you work on that smaller part of that skill. So, in another example for academics, I want to have a higher grade in class. Number one, process goal. I'm going to take better notes in class. Number two, I'm going to make sure I do all my homework and assignments the day that they're due rather than skipping them and catching up. Right. Number three, if I don't understand something, I'm going to make sure I raise my hand and ask the teacher. Three process goals. If you do those three process goals every day, you're going to end up with a higher grade, right? So the performance goal. So you're going to get this, and it's going to ask for three process goals, and then it's going to say the first one, second one, third one, and I want you to list those things. The other thing it's going to ask for is it's going to ask for like how you rate yourself at that moment. And what I want you to do, there's two ways to do it, two schools of thought. One school of thought is you rate, let's say you're a shortstop, you rate yourself compared to a major leaguer, right? He's got an arm of a nine, my arm's a three. So, obviously you're 14, 15, 18, whatever you are, you're not 25 years old, so you're not going to be as good most likely. But if this is, you say, "Hey, I'm a three now and I want to end up being a nine in, 8 years from now, right? So you're comparing yourself to someone that does your position really well, right? At a high level, at a collegiate or professional level. The other way to do it is to compare yourself kind of to the best players at your own age. All right. So maybe the best player has a nine arm, and compared to him, you have a seven arm. And I really don't care which one you choose. It's up to you. Um, but because the concept is the same, like we're working, one is just more of a long term thing, and the other one is short term that leads into a long term. So that is up to you to decide. Some of you might feel a little bit depressed or discouraged if you see a two next to what your rating is, where others might not care. So that I leave that up to you. But so you're going to pick where you are now, and then I think there's an option for where you want to be in the future. So you could put those down. And you could just do this for everything you do. Like you don't need to use the form every time, but just in your head, what two or three things can I do? What process goals can I set for myself that will allow me, if I do them every day and consistently, that will allow me to to improve whatever skill I'm looking to improve. Um, this is, I know personally, it helped me a lot as a baseball player, and I know it's helped a lot of the athletes that I work with to tangibly write these things down and have them. And I would say even better than doing I mean, do the sheet I gave you, but have your own diary and write them down, okay? And like physically write them down because in my mind, physically writing things down kind of lasts a little bit longer. All right. So that's the idea with the goals. Just to recap, the process goals are the goals we set for ourselves, the things we're going to do in order to improve our skill. The performance goal is how we measure how we're doing. Okay. And we have to have performance goals in order to measure how we're doing. So if we're on a diet and we're trying to lose weight, or maybe we're on a weight gain plan, a nutritional plan where we're trying to gain weight, you know, the performance goals would be, getting on the scale or seeing what your body mass index is. And are my process goals working or are they not? Right. The other thing is we need to remain flexible, right? It's great to have concrete goals, but we need to be flexible on how we achieve those goals. If we're not flexible, then our motivation can and our confidence levels can drop rapidly. Okay. If I set a goal and they need to be reasonable. If I set a goal that I realize pretty quickly, like, hey, like I might not like that might not be a realistic goal, rather than trying to kind of hit your head and reach that goal, adjust the goal and adjust how you're trying to make it and how you're trying to reach it. That's really important. There's nothing in life that can't be, moved on upon from, right? There's nothing that can be kind of changed and we kind of take a different direction, a different outlook, and then we're able to move on happily. All right. So the idea of flexibility with our goals is really important. We want to make them realistic but we need to remain flexible on how we achieve them, or if we need to kind of change the goalposts once in a while. And this is something that we could actually, to kind of go off on a tangent here, but this is something that is really important also, like when we're playing in a game. So, for example, like we might have a goal to win a game, right? Obviously, like let's win this game, but all of a sudden we fall behind by 6 runs in the first inning, right? If our goal is strictly to win the game, and that's what we're focused on, then what might ends up happening is we're down by 6 runs. Our odds of winning the game have gone down drastically, and our confidence might erode, right? And then we won't play as well. But if we say, okay, we're down by 6 runs after the first inning, we're kind of in a hole here. My goal now isn't to win the game, but my goal now is to try to throw the strikes the next inning. My goal is to have a good at bat every single at bat, no matter what the score is. My goal is to try to keep the other team's leadoff hitter off the base, or my goal is to try to shut the other team out for the next inning, right? So we set a new goal, it's also kind of a process goal, right? If we set a new goal to then help us and we achieve that, then maybe we're down 6-2. And then we do that for the next inning. And then we kind of claw our way back. And instead of kind of having feeling like, oh, we're down by 6 runs in the first inning, we're thinking about if I could just achieve this little goal, if I could achieve this little goal. And you start achieving those little goals, and before they know it, they add up, and then you're back in the game. So flexibility is really important. And also honesty, right? Be able to look at yourself, be able to be a self-critic without feeling critical about yourself. The best athletes that I've known as a coach, as a player, as a teammate, as a mental skills coach, the best players were realistic about their abilities, and they understood the areas of their weakness, their strengths, and then what they needed to do to improve their weaknesses and take advantage of their strengths. Okay, if we're lying to ourselves, if we think we're going to throw the hardest fastball and we're a fastball pitcher, but our we're going to end up being an 80-mile-an-hour high school pitcher, like or a college pitcher, you're not going to make it to that level if you think of yourself as a hard throwing fastball pitcher, right? You need to say, hey, fastball is not my best thing. I need to make sure I can locate it. I need to make sure I have changeup. I need to make sure I have a curveball or a breaking ball. I need to make sure I have deception to kind of make up for the other things. If you're a hitter, maybe you're not the fastest guy in the world, or but you're an outfielder, you have average speed or slightly below average speed. You should work on your footwork. You should work on reading the balls. You should work on positioning in order to make yourself a good outfielder without having that plus speed. So we'll talk about this more in person or on the Zoom call, to answer any questions about it. But the goal setting, whether it's academics, personal, career, or baseball, are extremely important. And if you kind of follow the path I've talked about today, you're going to find that things tend to happen, and you tend to reach the goals that you want, and you improve your skills. And what you also do is you kind of learn this, when we talk about resilience, so we'll talk about that on another day. But when we talk about resilience, when you learn to use goal setting and you learn how to properly do it and you learn how to become flexible and you learn how to become single-minded towards that process goal and accomplishing that process goal, it also makes us more resilient because when we're faced with difficult situations, when we're faced with situations that are out of your control, which is something that was mentioned as a possible topic, um, if we focus on setting that small goal for yourself, like let me just accomplish this small little thing. And I like to say when I work with people, just taking that step forward, right? We're not getting to the finish line, but we're just moving forward. And then before you know, you take one step, another step, you end up where you want to be. So the goal setting is great. It gives you a plan, it gives you some confidence, it gives you direction, and then it gives you feedback all at once. So again, this the survey or the type form that you're going to get will either be attached. You'll see it. It will come with this video on it, and you just finish it, or it'll be in a second attachment that you'll watch this video, and then you'll complete that type form. All right. Looking forward to talking to you guys later, and I'll see you soon.